Hello guys, welcome back to another Android tutorial. In this video we are going to create an Android application that fetch information from a remote server using JavaScript, object notation or JSON. So here is our online database. Our database name is product and table name is product info that contain 3 rows of data. So now we are going to create an Android application that fetch all this information in the form of a JavaScript, object notation or JSON. And here is the file manager of the server. So here is the PHP script that fetch information from table and encode the information as a JSON object. If you want to learn about how this PHP script made, you have to watch the previous video. So now create an Android project in Android Studio. So here I already create a project and here is the activity main.xml file that contains 2 buttons and a text view. So whenever user click the get JSON button, the application will fetch information from the database on a remote server and we have to display, and the purpose of this text view is to display the JSON data. So here is the XML file that contains 2 buttons. This is the first button with the on-click method get JSON, and here is the second button with on-click method parse JSON, and here is the text view with ID text view. So first we have to set up the needed permission. We have to set up the internet permission to fetch information from a remote server. So open up the manifest folder and open up the Android manifest.xml file and add the needed permission. Users permission. The permission name is internet permission. Now we set the needed permissions. Now go to the main activity.java. First here we have to create some variable for text view. No need of a text view. First here I declare some string variable, name it as JSON string. Now we have to define the on-click method for the button. The on-click method is get JSON. Copy this method name, go to main activity.java and define that method. Public void method name is get JSON. Add the needed parameters. Here we need a view argument. So we need some background thread. So we have to define some class here. I name it as background task. And extends this class using async task. We have to define the generic type. For convenience here I use void for each of these generic type. We have to change it later. And now we have to implement some method. We have to implement a method called do in background. Click OK. Also here we need some other lifecycle method of async task. First one is on pre-execute. Now we need some other method called on progress update, and finally we need the on post execute method. And within this class here I declare some string variables. String, name it as JSON URL. Okay, now we have to initialize that variable. So here I am going to initialize that particular variable inside the on pre-execute method. And here is our domain name. I copy this domain name. So JSON URL equal to, paste the domain name here, and the particular PHP script name is JSON getData.php. So JSON getData.php. Okay, now we have to get information from database. So we have to do something in the do in background method. So first we have to create an object of URL. New URL and pass the URL. Here the URL is available on this variable called JSON URL. we have to use some try catch block here. Now we have to create an object of HTTP URL connection. URL dot open connection. Here you need to add some catch block. It's an IO exception. And here we have to typecast this one into HTTP URL connection. Now we have to create some buffered reader object. Buffered reader, name it as buffered reader equal to new buffered reader. And so before declare the buffered reader object, we have to declare some input stream reader. Input stream, name it as input stream, and get the input stream from HTTP URL connection. HTTP URL connection dot get input stream. Okay, now we have to initialize the buffered reader object. Buffered reader equal to new buffered reader, and here new input stream reader, and pass the input stream reader object. Okay, now we have to get information from the buffered reader. For that, here we already declare some variable called the JSON string. So start some while loop here. And specify the condition as JSON string equal to buffered reader dot read line, and put all these one in a single bracket, and condition is not equal to null. In that case, here we need another variable called string builder. String builder equal to new string builder. Okay, now we have to append the each of the line into the string builder. So string builder dot append this string called the JSON string, and put a new line. And finally, we have to return this JSON string. We have to return this string builder. So before that, we have to close some connections. First, we have to close the buffered reader dot close. Now we have to close the input stream reader input stream. And finally, we have to disconnect the HTTP URL connection. HTTP URL connection dot disconnect. And finally, we have to return the string builder variable. So return string builder dot toString, and trim the white spaces. So here the return type is a string, so we have to change the return type of this doing background into string. So we have to change it in generic type of the assign task. So here some result is there, the result type is string. Now we got the result inside the onPost execute method. So we have to change the argument type into string. For convenience, here I change the variable name into string into result. So here I declare some text view variable, name it as text view equal to find view by id r dot id dot text view, and typecast this one into text view. And finally set the JSON string on into this text view dot set text. Result. Okay, so whenever user click the get to JSON button, it will get information from the database in the form of a JSON and display the JSON data inside the text view. So now we can test the application. Okay, before execute this application, we have to start the background task. We forget to start the background task. So from the getJSON method, we have to create an object of background task. So create an object of background task and call the execute function. This will execute the background task and there is no arguments. Now we can run the application. Okay, now the application available on a virtual device. You can test this application on a virtual device or in a real Android device. So now I am going to click the get JSON button. It will fetch information from the database in the form of a JSON. So here is the JSON data that contain here is the array name server response. Here is a square bracket, that means this is an array name, and that contain 3 JSON objects. So here is our table. Here is our table that contains 3 rows of data. So here there is 3 JSON object. This one represents the first JSON object, and here is a comma operator, that means this is the first JSON object, and here again a bracket, curly bracket start, this is the second JSON object. There is a comma operator, and here is the third JSON object. For more validation, just open JSON lint. That is a free JSON validator tool. So open your browser and search for JSON lint. Open this website. This is a free online JSON validation tool. Now copy the URL, JSON URL. Here is the JSON URL. I copy this URL and put it here. Now click the validate function. This will fetch the JSON data. Now we can compare it with the application. So here this is a valid JSON. Here is the array name and this is the first row. Here is our data, and after comma operator, here is the second JSON object, and the final one is the last JSON object, and here is the end of the JSON array. I hope you understand the concepts. In the very next video, we are going to parse this JSON data and display the JSON data in a list view. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.